Well, good morning or afternoon, everybody. I'm Dan Muncy. I'm the chairperson for the IAFC Tech Council, and today I'm joined with Business Development Director Jehan Karim from Dejero. This is going to be a really interesting presentation. Jehan, can I have you turn to the next screen, please?
Absolutely.
So let's get to the basics first. Who is the Tech Council? Well, we're all hazard, all risk response leaders. And the IAFC obviously represents the leadership of fire and emergency responders worldwide. And our members, the world leading experts in firefighting, EMS, terrorism response, hazmat, natural disasters, search and rescue, wildland fire mitigation response, and public safety policy. Next. Tech Council serves as a knowledge center for the technological developments that affect the fire service. The council provides a forum for information and knowledge exchange among the different stakeholders, including fire chiefs, public safety organizations, and the technology leaders that we represent. Our vision is to advance the fire, rescue, and EMS services and allied agencies to be on the leading edge of technological adaptation. You can join us with that link at the bottom there, or you can simply Google IAFC Technology Council and membership. We're always looking both for technology leaders, those vendors, but also interested fire chief, GIS professionals, and other chief officers that are involved in the fire service. Again, as I mentioned, I'm the chairperson, Dan Muncy. My day job's the fire chief for the San Bernardino County Fire Department here in California. And I'm joined with my vice chair, Tim Burke from Spring Fire Department, Texas. Jehan, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Chief, and Chief Muncy, as well as Chief Burke. I appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to present to this forum. And again, welcome everyone to the webinar. I appreciate you guys taking the time, you all taking the time to attend Dejero's presentation today. There's essentially the goal of the meeting or the webinar today is to communicate Dejero's core technology platform and how we provide resilient connectivity for public safety operations. The intent of the webinar as an agenda is going to be to give you a brief idea on who we are, what we do, and what are the areas that we've been participating in and providing solutions in. We'll review the Dejero core platform, products and services, but really what we want to talk about is the applications and the value propositions within those applications for our platform. And at any point, if you have any questions or comments, you can put them in the Q&A box and we'll be monitoring those, and I'll have Jeff monitoring those as well to see if there's anything we need to pick up, and we'll be happy to respond. Again, thanks for your attendance, and we'll get rolling. So who is Dejero? Dejero is a company that is based in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. We're headquartered there. We were founded in 2008, and we're at about 150 strong right now. We have a global presence in terms of a technology company, in terms of both customers and development that we have available to our customers and ourselves. And we have multiple award-winning solutions that basically is a testament to the type of service and solution that we're providing. But when it comes to first responders, and as I'm sure many of you on the call realize, it's all about providing real-time mission-critical connectivity so that the teams can coordinate the operation, they can be aware of the situation, they know who is where and doing what, and understanding how their assets are being deployed and resources are being utilized. And all that stuff becomes very interconnected, and the networks that are used to interconnect that information are very critical. And we at Dejero believe that relying on any single network or any single technology will not provide you the best option in the field for your mission or your operation. We believe that to build resiliency and redundancy out into the networks, you need to be able to leverage all available technologies, all available providers, so that your operators in the field, the first responders, do not have to worry about, hey, am I in coverage? Am I not in coverage? Why is my video not working? I can't get this call out. They're focused on the mission and operation and their safety and the safety of the people that they're responding for. So based on those value principles, Dejero really has put forward our what we call network blending, smart blending technology, in which we understand that a single carrier will never be able to cover a geography or an area entirely, right? There's always going to be certain areas, certain populations, certain topographies that will not be suited to a certain technology. And no single provider will ever have a ubiquitous universal solution. You have to have multiple different networks. And that kind of gets us into alternative technologies traditionally, excuse me, in the public safety space, when we're talking communications networks, it's the P25 LMR network, the UHF, VHF. You've got cellular penetrating heavily. You've got mesh networking that's making a quite a mark right now with the different providers in that space. You've got the traditional microwaves. You've got the up and coming low Earth orbit SATCOM technology. You've got your traditional BGAN, VSAT, and your geostationary satellites. Well, all that's awesome, right? You've got the long-standing tried and tested technology, and then you've got this up and coming, I would say, new edge technologies that are coming up. And with the Dejero's platform, we make all of those available as a single seamless network for our end customer. And that's our priority, is to basically take the network operation effort from the customer and move it to a platform that does that in an automated way, so you have access to the best possible aggregate network at all times. And that kind of brings us to what Dejero does. Essentially, Dejero creates a virtual network of networks, right? We have a network that can run simultaneously, and this is important, so I'll repeat it. We create a network that runs simultaneously over multiple technologies and multiple providers. The solutions available, majority of the solutions available in the market today are, I would say, either a single network, single technology, or they have the ability to provide a hybrid network in a failover sense. But I'm sure all of us on the call understand that that technology has almost run its course. And now the demand that's being put on the network in terms of bandwidth, in terms of coverage, in terms of resiliency, and in terms of availability cannot be handled by a traditional failover technology. And this is where Dejero's platform really highlights what it can do in terms of managing multiple networks simultaneously, because all the applications that are overriding the network is what makes the network important. The network is only as good as the applications that it's supporting, right? And the fact that Dejero can provide a solution that is seamless to the end customer, you don't see the networks fluctuating, you don't see the impact of those network outages or fluctuations or whatever it may be, coverage loss on the applications that you have deployed, is the core value that Dejero brings to our customers, right? And applications are moving towards a distributed infrastructure. It used to be previously everything was on-prem. Then it was kind of an era of, hey, everything's going to the cloud. And now we're in a space where there's applications that are in the cloud, that are distributed, that are on-prem. And all those applications have to be interconnected at all times, right? There is no, hey, I could be offline and I have access to all my assets. Yes, you can operate in an offline environment, but in the real sense of a distributed network, you're connecting multiple locations, multiple applications, multiple agencies all the time, every single day. And we believe it has to be the same approach when it comes to network technologies, that it has to be all connected across geographies, across providers, across technologies, and we provide the single most robust network that's needed for first response in this particular sense. And if you look at the core values that this is going to bring, clearly we're able to aggregate the bandwidth that we're getting across multiple networks. And that's not what I would say the core benefit of the technology, but it's definitely valuable when you start looking at applications like, NG911 and how video is being brought into that, right? Or it's the SUAS applications that are being deployed for situational awareness and distributed command or incident command. Those applications require significant amounts of bandwidth. And traditionally, the request has been, hey, we're doing voice comms or we're doing radio comms. Well, that's changing with the new applications that are coming out. And then vice versa, we think that the amount of data that's being collected during these operations can be used and is being used by artificial intelligence applications or collaboration applications or machine learning applications, whether it's fire mapping, disaster mitigation, disaster response. All that stuff's being automated. Well, in essence, it's a ton of new data that's being created and it has to be captured, processed, distributed in a timely fashion. And to be able to do that, you need to have a very reliable network. So we believe by providing a solution that is what we believe is the next generation of network technology beyond failover technology, is truly hybrid networking and seamless networking across multiple different domains, is the future of communications for this industry and this particular operation. And as I mentioned, there's the benefit of greater bandwidth. There's clearly greater reliability because you're not relying on a single path of communications. And there's expanded coverage because you're now being able to pull in your SATCOM coverage map and your Cellcom, cellular coverage map and your your wireline or your microwave network or your mesh radio network, and you're able to plug all that in and create a super set coverage map that really truly should cover your operational requirements as best as possible while giving you access to all these paths, right? Now, on a more, I would say, detailed level, we have different protocols and algorithms built around the platform that can look at a particular type of traffic, can look at a particular IP address, can look at a particular, destination IP or a device IP and say, hey, this traffic needs to be handled in a certain way. But that's the details, right? Clearly, if we're going to be a backhaul platform, we have to be able to provide the tools that can manage and mitigate and, operationalize that backhaul. And then we obviously provide all those tools. And then last but not least, as I mentioned, most of the operational applications are getting into a distributed environment. Hence, our platform is in a distributed environment. You have the ability to run it in a off-prem cloud situation or environment. You have the ability to run it in an on-prem within the network environment as well. So it really depends on your organization's priorities and operation and how you want to deploy. But we're basically bringing network resiliency and network diversity to these applications with our platform. Again, I think this slide really highlights the core technology that Dejero provides and how it manifests itself in different products, whether that be for pure general purpose IP comms or gateways or modems or whatever your agencies calling the things that you're putting in your vehicles or your engines or your apparatus or your fixed locations. There's technology that's there for IP comms, and this technology is the same technology that we use for our video ingest and distribution capability as well. That's used for tactical video ingest and distribution for many agencies and applications across the United States and globally. Just kind of give you a high level overview of who are our customers today. Clearly, this is not all the the badges that we could pull up. So if I'm missing any and you're on the call, then I apologize. But to kind of give you the idea of this slide is to give you an idea of the diversity of the type of client that we have, right? We've got success and we're lucky to have these agencies that are as our partners and clients, because they really push us every single day and try to help us drive the next generation of comms technology. But outside of the Department of Defense, we have clients at the federal level with the Department of Homeland as well as the Department of Justice. And then as you can see, we've got coverage all the way from state level agencies down to state, local municipal agencies or sheriff's offices that we're proud to have as our partners and customers. But the technology solutions that we're providing to these agencies range, as I mentioned, all the way from video-centric and video-specific ingest and distribution products, as well as general purpose comms products that are all built on Dejero's smart blending technology, which is the multi-network technology we just discussed. And if you are an agency that had your logo or your symbol up there, then again, I'd like to thank you for your participation and collaboration with Dejero. Again, to highlight our technology partners, clearly we would not be able to do what we do without the technology partners we have in the field. We've got a whole plethora of a channel, a partner ecosystem, and we're grateful to our partners for the business that they enable for us, and I'm sure they're grateful to be able to partner with Dejero to bring our technology to the market. But again, this is to highlight that we are in the market to enable various applications. We understand that, as I mentioned before, a network is only as good as the applications it can enable, right? You could have the best network in the world, but it's not compatible with the applications you need to run for your operation, then it's not valuable to you or your agency. And our partners are bringing that industry knowledge and that industry expertise in helping us understand how the networks need to integrate, how the networks need to be able to provide not just intercommunication, but interoperability in its true sense across multiple organizations and multiple applications is really what we're targeting, and our partners are helping us with this on a daily basis. So thank you to all of our partners, and I just wanted to highlight them as well. Now, I think the next few slides really talk about the core value of our systems in different applications, and these are all applications that we have deployed currently with various different agencies. And I hope that some of these resonate with the audience that's on the call, and hopefully we'll have some Q&A coming out of this to better understand how Dejero is providing value in these environments, right? But we'll start off with the first one that's mobile command. You can call it mobile command, you can call it incident command, you can have, it could be your command center, it could be your C4 ISR or your C5 ISR or your C2. There's a lot of acronyms out there for this, right? But essentially, it's the ability to set up a nomadic or temporary environment that can mimic a fixed location command operation, right? And in that situation, you want to be able to have access to all your tools, your resources, your capabilities in a way just as you would at your command center, where you've got plenty of connectivity, you've got, good connectivity, you've got your wireline, you've got your fiber, or whatever it is that you've got. The intent here is to provide as close as possible to your command location comms in a temporary or nomadic or a mobile environment, right? And the value there is that you should be able to conduct operation regardless of your location, right? And the platform is enabling that bandwidth. It's enabling that situational awareness. It's enabling that response time that you want to be able to achieve in the market by having that resilient comms capability and having that data available to you when the seconds matter, right? Because it's all about knowing, hey, has that entrance been compromised? Has that level been compromised? If you have imagery coming in from the drone and it's just going to the pilot and the observer, how can you get that to the people that are out on the front lines, as well as people in the background that are actually planning the resource deployment, all at the same time, all in a tactical way? We believe that we provide tremendous value in this particular application for mobile command and control. The next one being how, natural disasters. Clearly, we are experiencing natural disasters at an unprecedented rate all across the globe, whether it be wildfires, whether it be flooding, hurricanes, earthquakes. It's something that's an everyday occurrence, and the operation has to occur on an everyday basis in these environments. And clearly in these environments, infrastructure is getting impacted, but the operation requirements are only growing, right? And the workload and the effort that's being placed, the effort requirement that's being placed on the agencies and the operations that are supporting these events is only growing. So we believe the platform that they should have access to, at least from a networking perspective, should be the most robust platform, because they're being put in the most challenging environments, right? And hence the network diversity and the path to diversity that we're able to bring to our partners and via our partners to our customers really sets them up in the best possible way for communications in a natural disaster type environment, where they know the network's going to be compromised, the geography may be compromised, there's going to be unexpected circumstances. We're trying to reduce as much as possible that unexpected network performance and keep it as resilient and as uniform as possible in these environments. And last but not least, as I mentioned, there's UAS situational awareness. As we all know, UAS deployment, whether it's SUAS, whether it's traditional UAS, whether it's on the heavy side, these deployments are growing, and it's for the need to have better situational awareness. Of course, it started off with a camera with wings, but we all know that now it's not just that. It's GPS, it's KLV data, it's IR data, it's temperature data, it's a lot of other sensors that can be deployed in a very compact, mobile, and nimble package that comes with a lot of other considerations. But again, as I mentioned initially, is that information that's being created, or that data that's being created at the edge or in the operation, is only as valuable as the decisions that can be extracted out of it in a real-time basis. And our platform is essentially enabling the ability to share that data within seconds anywhere in the world, right? Whether it needs to be an operational site at a federal level that's coordinating with Phoenix and New York, or that's the operation, or it's a local agency that needs to get the video from the field to the sheriff, to the governor, to the mayor, to whoever needs to see it or whoever doesn't need to see it. The operation can be coordinated and the information can be shared at a push of a button if necessary, to make sure that the coordinated response is the right response. And we believe our platform's adding tremendous value here. And we'll talk about the products a little bit more, but again, it's the applications that need to get some value out of the products and solutions, right? We have to think about it from a customer's perspective to be able to provide the right products and solutions. So we definitely see a tremendous value being provided in that tactical situational awareness type of use case. And then the next one being the NG911, as I mentioned, is modernizing PSAPs. The operational requirement at these, within these environments is growing tremendously. And of course, with that, the network environment on the EZNet, which is the emergency services IP network, is growing tremendously. And we are providing resilient solutions for the mitigation of network outages, especially, as you can imagine, in a 911 type of situation where on time or uptime or is everything. You have to be able to, because there in most cases is a life on the other line of that call, and it is a life or death situation. And we are providing solutions today to bring resiliency to 911 call centers, to be able to make sure that if there is an impact, whether it's John Deere that took out your fiber, or it was a hurricane, or whatever it may be that's caused an issue, or it's inclement weather and it's a winter ice storm, whatever that may be. I know those events have recently caused a lot of impact across this type of application, and the goal of our platform is to provide better resilience to these deployments, and to provide better response times, and I would say a continued consistency in response time while environments are constantly changing is the goal that Dejero has, right? And we have active deployments out there today, and we have multiple deployments in the works for this particular application as well. And this could not, this doesn't has to be your 911 call center or your PSAP, right? This could be your fire station. This could be your agency that is in a location where coverage is not that great. For business continuity and continuity of operations, we're seeing our platform deployed at fixed locations just to make sure that the business continuity aspect of it is there if there is an impact on the fixed line communication side of it. And again, to be, kind of wrap that all up and present it in a single slide, right? Why are our customers and our partners choosing Dejero? It's to have that peace of mind, to have that reliability in their network, to have that push button capability in terms of simplicity, but still have the visibility to be able to control your network and your backhaul, right? To truly provide technology and carrier interoperability at a device level, right? And to provide better bandwidth, have access to a platform that's trusted globally, and it's something that can be secured to the requirements of your agency, is something that Dejero aspires to deliver, and we deliver on a daily basis with our customers. The next couple of slides talk about our product portfolio. But before I jump into that, I know I just talked through quite a few slides. I do see that there is a question in the Q&A. Jeff, do you want to take that question right now, or should we just wait till the end of the presentation?
Let's wait till the end and take all the questions back to back.
Sounds good. All right. Just give me a second. I'm just grabbing a sip of water. Perfect. As I mentioned, the next couple of slides talk to our product portfolio and the Dejero platform, right? So the Dejero platform is not just a piece of hardware that we sell to you and say, hey, go figure out the connectivity. It's not just the software that we provide to you and say, well, this is how the software works and you have to figure out the integration of it. The Dejero platform, what we intend to provide is the equipment that's needed for your operation, the software that's needed to support that equipment, the connectivity services to enable that equipment, whether that be SATCOM, whether that be cellular. We have the partners, the technology partners, and the providers in the field that can get you access to whether it's mesh, whether it's microwave, whether it's cellular, whether it's SATCOM, to make sure that it's the right combination of technologies to enable the operation in the field. It's the core Dejero network, the cloud platforms that we enable for management and operation. And along with that, what we're proud of is our support operation, which is a 24/7 operation, just like all public safety operations, where you can pick up the phone, you can call a number, and you'll have another person answer your call on the other side and provide support on a 24/7, 365 basis. And this is what Dejero provides. When you invest in Dejero, this is what you're obtaining. You're not just purchasing a box. You're not just purchasing backhaul or connectivity or data. You're not just getting access to a cloud provider. You're getting access to all these services, which we believe is the package that first responders should have access to when they're operating with our technology in the field. And we'll run through a couple of products. I don't want to get into too much detail on the products, but I do want to give you a high level gist of, what is it that we provide in the market in terms of the technology itself. As you see, we have products that have the right level of certifications and compliance in place to be able to service these markets and applications. But to get right into it, the Gateway M6E6 is our rack-mounted networking appliance. You could essentially think of it as a multi-modem modem, right? So it's got up to 6 different LTE radios inside of it. You can populate them with whatever configuration you think is best for your operation. Along with that, you've got the ability to expand it with an additional 5 wide area networks. That could be a microwave, a SATCOM, a mesh network. That could be another wired connection like a DSL or a copper, whatever that you may have. just to bring the resiliency and the robustness to the device. And essentially the device will provide you with a layer 2 connection. Just, it would look like an Ethernet cable that you can plug into your local router, your local switch, and have your local area network run off of that. This is the first device that actually we put out as Dejero about, I want to say 3.5, 4 years ago, which was our Gateway M66 product. We also now have a Gateway 200 series product. This has been out for about, I want to say 18 to 20 months. This is more ruggedized for harsher environments. There's no moving parts, as in no fans, solid state drives. It's built for a more ruggedized application. Again, from a comms perspective, this device has 3 LTE radios. That means you can have up to 3 different carriers in this device. And again, it's got a combination of WAN and LAN capability. And this device also has PoE capability. So if you have devices or equipment that can be powered over Ethernet, we do have that capability with this device as well. Then we get into our video specific products, right? Our video specific products, think of those as your video encoder and your transmitter built into a single device, right? And we've got 4 of them listed here. As I mentioned, I'm going to cover them at a high level. Don't want to get into too much details, but we've got our Engo 260. That's our flagship video transmitter. That's a network aware video encoder, and essentially is encoding any video stream, whether it's an IP video stream, HDMI or Ethernet, or any particular IP video format, and SDI video that can be ingested into this device. It can be encoded and transmitted over multiple networks simultaneously. What I mean by that is this device has the 6 LTE radios built into it. You can populate them however you wish, and you can also connect it to an external WAN connection or a Wi-Fi connection. And again, the device, as I mentioned, all these devices are built on the same core platform, which is the smart blended technology. They will essentially combine all those networks in the best possible manner on a continuous basis and a real-time basis to make sure that the video payload gets to the destination as quickly, as low latency, as high resolution as possible, to make sure that link is as resilient as possible. So that's the Engo 260. We've got our Q.100 and Q.50 servers. These are essentially your tactical return video servers. These devices enable the sharing of a live video feed back to the users in the field that have access to a web browser. That's as simple as it is, right? So as I mentioned in the beginning, if you've got an operation in the field, you've got your pilot, you've got your operator. The pilot would have an Engo 260 on their back. That would be streaming video to a location where we would have a receive side decoder. And then that decoder's output can plug into our QPoint product. And essentially you could send a web link to any authorized personnel to pull up that live video feed on their cell phone, on their smartwatch, on their MDT, on their laptop, in their vehicle, on a big screen, doesn't matter. As long as they have access to a web browser, they can pull up that video feed. And we're talking about high definition video coming from the field into this environment with under 3 seconds of latency, right? We're really trying to deliver that in these environments, right? And in best cases, 800 milliseconds of latency. So that's kind of the range that we operate in on a daily basis. Now, is that something we always deliver? I have to say no. If the only connection that you have available is a SATCOM link, then you're going to get the latency of a traditional SATCOM link, right? However, when we provide the different technology transports in the field, the target latencies, as I mentioned, that we're targeting to deliver are anywhere for radio delivery between 0.8 seconds and 3 seconds. And that seems to be quite adequate for most operations in the field. This slide talks a little bit more about the Dejero Engo 260. As I mentioned, this is our flagship video encoder and transmitter. We talked about the LTE radios that are built in and the Wi-Fi capability. It has both as a backhaul and as a local Wi-Fi hotspot. It's got the ability to ingest multiple types of videos, internal battery, expandable battery capability, onboard recording capability. It has the ability to record and stream at the same time. So it's a pretty diverse device, and we think it's the best video transmitter in the market. There's clearly a lot of solutions out there where there's an encoder that's hooked up to a modem, but we believe there's a tremendous detriment to having that solution instead of a Dejero Engo 260 that is a network aware encoder, because it will never push more bandwidth on the network than what's available, and hence making sure that the video is always available and the encoder is just not saying, hey, I'm pushing the video, but you're getting nothing on the other end. give you an idea of the size of the device, you can kind of see it here with the UAS platform and a traditional controller. As I mentioned, these devices typically go on the back of the operator or a pilot. They can connect to your L3 Westcam helicopter camera, or they can connect to your Churchill system. They can connect to your FLIR. They could essentially, to them, these devices are essentially just capturing your sensor input, right? In this case, we're actually, if you notice, the drone controller is connected to the Dejero via a Wi-Fi mirroring device. So the screen on the controller is being fed into the Engo over a Wi-Fi connection that's being actually converted into an HDMI connection and pushed into the device, which is then backcalling it, right? But it gives you an idea of how big it is and how the tactical operation is in terms of being able to deploy and have this ability, a capability at your hands. We mentioned a receiver, right? So we have a Waypoint 100 receiver. This is the device that goes within a fixed infrastructure. It could be a mobile command center. It could be an actual headquarter command center. These devices essentially receive all the video feeds, they decode them, and then you have the ability to plug it into your flavor of the day VMS system, or you can plug it into our Q-point devices and get tactical video distribution. There's multiple different architectures that agencies have deployed with these devices. And I do like to highlight this because this is essentially our station in a box, right? When we go out and demonstrate our capability to our customers, all we need is a Dejero gateway, which is a multi-network backhaul, and we need our receivers and transmitters, and we can demonstrate to a customer within 30 minutes what we mean by tactical video and what we mean by getting video on your cell phone under 30 minutes in terms of setting up the capability, right? And we've demonstrated this with multiple agencies. We've had the privilege of actually providing the solution over the last 2 years to multiple agencies globally, and we see a lot of value that's being added to their operation with these devices. Last but not least, as I mentioned, there's software packages that's also available from Dejero. Enhanced Control is essentially our centralized network management and device management portal. Again, very seamless, very easy to operate, drag and drop type operation. Very few clicks. It has the ability to provision your networks, configure your networks, deploy your networks remotely. And what I mean by that is, if your operator or your drone pilot has the device in the field, he doesn't have to be messing around with the device. They can just power it on, hook it up to the drone, and it can be controlled remotely. You can start streams, stop streams, you can send them to different people all remotely, and the pilot can focus on their job, which is to operate the asset that they have at hand, right? So that's how the platform is built on the control side. We've got a multi-point service, which is essentially the ability to distribute at a large scale tactical video. Our cloud servers are decoders in the cloud for customers that are looking for video to be pushed. For example, for PIO purposes, if you have a public information office that needs to push video to YouTube Live or your Facebook Live page, or you're doing a feed that needs to go to the local news channel, you don't need to buy hardware for that. You could just buy a transmitter and you can plug into your local broadcaster's network via a cloud server and get them a live feed for a press conference or whatever that may be. And then last but not least is our Live Plus apps, which essentially turn your mobile devices into encoders and can get live video into the environment from your operation, right? And we have those available both for our iOS and Android devices. As I mentioned, Dejero Control, we've already talked about it. It's the platform to monitor performance, configure networks, and basically deploy networks. Of course, has also the ability for what we call reporting. So you can go back and look at, hey, how much data were we using? Which network are we using? It has the ability to provide live analytics. So some of our customers actually use these devices as network testing devices, because the device in real time will show you how the networks behave when you put a payload on these networks, right? So it gives you the capability to monitor and kind of analyze those networks as well. And last but not least is our connectivity services, which we believe is a huge part of providing a communications solution, is to be able to provide the connectivity. By no means are our devices limited to our connectivity. You have the ability to bring your own connectivity and plug it into these devices, but we feel we can provide a single enterprise grade communications package that covers multiple different transports, multiple different operators, and is provided as a single bill, a single provisioning, and a single entity that's providing you all this capability essentially across the globe, and it's providing you a service that is really needed for first response. So it's not throttled, it's not capped, it's going to be the best network at that particular second for that particular application, such that that very important phone call or that very important video or that very important image gets to where it needs to get so the response can be coordinated and deployed appropriately. So we have the ability to provide connectivity services within the United States, as I mentioned, also globally, for our first responder customers to be able to provide this technology. And I think with that, we've covered all the different aspects of the platform. I apologize to flip slides on you, but I will go back to the core slide that I presented originally, which was our platform. But I think now we can take any questions, comments, or concerns that have come up, and we can go from there. I appreciate the time.
Jehan, that was an awesome presentation. And we've, as a county fire department, we've looked at your solutions being very geographically diverse with mountains up to 12,000 feet and then having sheer geographical space between towers. And what you're saying is verified true. Our team was very impressed with your product. So I will give you that quick pitch. As we look at big data and the Internet of Things, we're realizing that connectivity needs to get not so much to our operating platforms, but to the firefighter itself. Mm-hmm. And so we really took a hard look at Dejero's. We're starting to include some of the wearables into our situational awareness and integrate those into our operating platforms. It's really important that we're able to develop the network that you've been able to provide. We do have several questions that have been asked. The first question is, how does FirstNet priority occur in your system?
Thank you for the question. So the way we prioritize the networks, that's a great point, right? So we have, as Dejero, access to Verizon wireless priority services. We're actually negotiating that right now with Verizon. We also have access to FirstNet's prioritized network for public safety broadband. And the devices, the way the algorithm is prioritizing the network, it's basically looking at multiple different factors from an edge perspective. So to give you an idea of what that means is, when we have access to FirstNet SIMs, clearly they're connected over band 14. They have access to the backhaul and are prioritized over other connections that may be on the same network. But at a device level, at an endpoint level, the gateway or the Engo will look at all available networks, and it will not just look at, the bandwidth that it has on the network. It will look at at that moment, the jitter, packet loss, latency, return trip time, and multiple other factors to say, okay, is this the best network for me to hand over the packets to? So in case of, let's take a gateway, you've got a voice call that's being placed over the gateway. The gateway is connected to multiple carriers, let's say. It's also connected to FirstNet. Now, as that gateway is sending packets over these multiple networks, that voice call is getting distributed over multiple networks. It's not getting tied to a single network. As on the other end in the cloud or on a prem, or the other half of the solution is looking at the packets come in, it's communicating with the edge device and saying, hey, packet received, packet received, packet received. For example, if packets are starting to get dropped on any network, and if that network seems at that moment in time seems to be FirstNet because the endpoint is mobile or is in an environment with tough coverage, the centralized software will tell the endpoint to retransmit those lost packets on a different network within the seconds of response that's happening between the edge and the centralized node on a different network. But when that happens, the device will again essentially test all the networks at the edge and say, hey, I think this network may have improved or may not have improved. So not only will it retransmit the lost packets, not essentially lose the entire call and you have to reestablish the call, it will retransmit the lost packets, but then it will also send some packets on the network that's been said, hey, this network's questionable, right? So having access to get back to the original question, having access to prioritized networks or private networks or dedicated bandwidth is great. But we know that in operational environments, things change. Hence, the devices are always themselves at the edge testing, quote unquote, testing the network before they hand over the packets to the network. And the good thing is this is all visible to the customer. You can actually pull these devices up in our control center and you can see in real time what the network is actually delivering at the modem. You can see which towers you're connected to. You can see the bandwidth and all the other aspects of it, so that if there is a situation where you're like, hey, this thing is not operating the way it should be, you can go back and take a look and the device will tell you, hey, at this particular time, 1500, GMT, at this particular second, I handed over these packets to these networks because this is how they were performing. So you can have that level of access, right? So FirstNet priority definitely helps. Verizon priority definitely helps, but the devices prioritize the best network automatically. And that may or may not be that private network at that particular time because of various circumstances, as we're all aware. So sorry for the long answer, but I think that should cover it.
Thank you, sir. Failover technology has been out there for a while, and many agencies and many representatives on this call use some sort of failover. But you're working with network aggregation devices. You're combining all the networks, whether that's a 3 modem or a 6 modem. But how does the satellite connections, how are they handled compared to the traditional cell carriers?
And again, thank you for that question. This is a question we get often, right? And this is really one of, I would say, the secret sauce patented aspects of our smart blending technology is to be able to, I'll go back to, ABCs, right? There is standard Linux-based bonding available as open source, but that's not really good at bonding, a cell connection with a SATCOM connection. Because of the diverse nature of these connections, you've got a typically low latency, fairly good bandwidth connection in LTE, and then you've got a high latency, typically low bandwidth connection in traditional SATCOM. Now, Starlink's changing that a little bit, where you've got low latency, high bandwidth, almost like an LTE type of connection. But essentially, Dejero's SBT is able to take a very high speed, very low latency connection, like your ADSL or your fiber connection, and blend it with a cellular connection and a satellite connection simultaneously. Right? The way we're doing it is because we're not putting a single flow or a single session on a single network. We're essentially, as I mentioned previously, looking at each individual connections independently and then handing over those traffic. But at the same time, as I mentioned, there's no magic. If we have to start using a traditional GeoSATCOM link to carry a conversation or to start distributing a payload, the customer will see the impact of that latency in the link. But the important factor here is they will not see an impact to the continuity of that application. So if it is a voice call that's being initiated at dispatch or received at dispatch, or if it is a video that's being sent to command or sent from command to a remote user, they will not see that video go away or that call drop. They may see an impact in the latency just because the network is now saying, hey, I have to use your GeoSATCOM link because your cellcom's gone away. Or if your cell recovers and it'll automatically move that to the cell connections and offload the SATCOM. But the network the devices will always prioritize the best network. And hence the customer will see an impact of physics because we're using the different networks, but they will not see an impact of, hey, I've lost my connection. The VPN's reestablishing authentication and I have to reinitiate a call. But that's how we're essentially managing very diverse connections simultaneously. So not only are we bonding the cell connections, we're bonding the SATCOM connections and any and all available wide area networks that are plugged into that device, whether it be mesh, microwave, DSL, as I mentioned, along with the cell connections. And you have the ability to prioritize which ones are used first. But yeah, we're tapping into all connections at all times.
Mentioned fixed facilities a couple of times. So certainly some fixed solutions here with DSL and Starlink. So I assume that this is being used in fixed facilities such as EOCs?
That is correct. Yes, we are in active deployment for PSAPs all across California I'm lucky to work with the California Office of Emergency Services. We're also actively working with a few other states that deals are in development right now. But yes, these devices are being deployed at fixed locations for comms redundancy and resiliency.
Across the United States, especially here in in California, we're seeing camera systems being set up to detect wildfire, such as alert wildfire. Are you working with any camera systems, either in public safety or in smart cities, that are using your device to ensure connectivity?
That would be a negative. We're not actively deploying integrated product. We have worked with multiple different camera system providers and sensor providers in terms of enabling the application, but we're not integrated today in a particular camera vendor solution. We have worked with the Axis and the Panasonics and the Philips and the various other providers in the industry. However, we don't today have an integrated solution in the market, but if there is one, we would love to learn about it and see if we can optimize a solution for the customers.
Excellent. And I do have a question here. Does your system integrate into ESI networks connecting disparate communication centers?
Yes. So the answer to that would be yes, but when it comes to the emergency services networks, we've noticed and we've realized that typically the legacy setup is very unique to different environments, right? Some people will have regional host locations that are connected to remote locations. Some states or some counties will have a setup where they have remote sites connecting to two host sites, like one in Phoenix and one in Denver, or one in Atlanta. So we have been able to plug into those environments. However, that conversation the network architecture conversation has to take place so that we fit in the best way for that particular network. But I would say, yes, we have incorporated the solution on the EZNet side today, not as a primary. I will also caveat that we are not a primary provider on the EZNet side in any of the applications we have. We are typically a secondary or a tertiary link that's being used when the primary is impacted.
Thank you, sir. The last question I have is, what is the cost matrix? Is it population-based, line-based, or how is your cost matrix designed?
The cost matrix is essentially a population and term-based. And typically the way we sell these solutions is, as I mentioned, going back to that platform analogy, right, is we're not intending to sell boxes without the software and the subscriptions. However, you can use them without the connectivity services. We have the ability to provide the entire solution as capex, which we have done for some agencies that are trying to use grant funding, and that's how they're applying the monies. We have also provided the solution as entirely OPEX, which includes the hardware and the services and the support and the warranties and everything else as a single monthly charge per endpoint for a specified term. And we've also had a mix of it where some of it is capex and some of it is OPEX. But the things that will turn the knobs, or the price matrix, or the commercial matrix, as you said, will be dictated by the population, the term, and essentially when it comes to connectivity, it's all about how much connectivity we're selling, because we're essentially purchasing it in wholesale. But yeah, those are the knobs that basically determine the end pricing of how the solution gets priced out to the customer. I hope that answers the question. If it does not, you feel free to answer a follow-up or ask a follow-up.
I certainly will. I'm going to call the question a little bit more. So if you had a single, say, 6 modem device that was used in an EOC, what would the capex, what price range look like? And then what would an OPEX price range look like?
Absolutely. So from a capex perspective, if everything was purchased as a capex on an annual basis, they'd be looking at a roughly about, let's call it a $10,000 install. That would include the software services, the support services, warranty, the hardware itself, and the connectivities for the first year of service. And from an OPEX perspective, depending on the term of the contract, we typically get into 3 to 5 year type contracts for EZNets, because we're typically being deployed by traditional EZNet providers like a Lumen or an Atos or an Intrado or a Motorola, right? And they have longstanding contracts. And in that case, you'd be looking anywhere from, I would say, $300 a month to $600 a month, depending on how much data is being procured for these applications and the term of the contract. But for an M6E6 device, if it's all capex, you're looking at $10,000. If it's a term-based agreement, you'd probably be looking at anywhere from $300 to $600 a month for the services.
Thank you. And the M6E6 is the 6 modem device. What about a 3 modem device?
The 3 modem device, from an MSRP perspective, you're essentially shaving off on a capex side you're shaving off $3,000, right? So you're, from a capex perspective, you'd be looking at $7,000 for year one. And then from an OPEX perspective, again, based on the term and the population of these devices, you'd be looking at anywhere from, I would say, $300 to $500. I know that there's overlap on the M6, but that's because if the term or the amount of data that's being purchased is different, that's typically the band of pricing that you would be in.
Many smaller agencies join in JPAs, especially for regional communications, and may approach you with the regional contract, or a larger agency may need multiple devices. I assume that these price points are variable in nature, dependent on the amount of devices purchased.
Absolutely, absolutely. The amount of devices, the term of the contract, the amount of data that's being purchased, and of course, at the end of the day, we understand that these are government budgets that we're working with, and our intent as a technology provider, and I genuinely mean this, is to make sure that we can get the solutions in the hands of the first responder as much as possible, because that in our best interest, and that is in the best interest of the first responder. And we understand the public safety business is a try and test business, right? So once we get that first agency, we know that everyone will say, hey, this is the right system to use. So we can be very flexible. Dan, to your point, these prices that I just provided are kind of the benchmarks, right? And we can talk from that point on.
Thank you, Jehan. This was an exceptional presentation. We really like where Dejero is going. As a tech council, we've been talking to you for the last several months, probably about 6 months. We asked you to do this presentation, and we certainly appreciate it. Before we close and I finish with our questions, how could the Tech Council or its membership support Dejero and the vision of achieving connectivity in very difficult places better?
So I'm just taking a pause to think about that question, because that question is actually something that I have thought about. And I would request that as a technology provider, the best thing we can obtain from yourselves and the authority is and the agency, sorry, is the feedback on how does this work or not work for your operation, and how does this actually add value to the first responder in the field. As you mentioned, with situational awareness and edge sensors and IoT networks growing at an alarming and exceptional rate, we clearly, when we do product development and solution development, we say, hey, we understand this. But today, actually, since we're talking about this, I am speaking to you all from El Paso. We have been at Fort Bliss, and again, we're lucky to work with the Department of Homeland, and we're here trying to understand their operation, right? We are trying to understand their use cases. We're trying to understand better, how do they put our devices and platforms in their daily operation, so that when we go back and talk to our product guys and our technology guys, we say, yeah, that makes sense from an engineering perspective, but that does not make sense from a user perspective. So what I'm really asking is not to, hey, market our product. What I'm really asking for is that technical operational feedback that we can obtain and have obtained over the past couple of months, as you mentioned. That is really valuable to us as a technology provider, because we really want to understand how the operator uses the equipment, what's the real value of it, and how can we develop the best product. And then the commercial side of it figures itself out. So we're not too worried about that. But yeah, that was a long answer, but that's really what we're looking for in terms of a technology provider in this space.
Jehan, Dejero's website is dejero.com. That's DEJERO.com. Could you also provide some other contact information so our membership can get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I will have my marketing team circulate some contact information, but you could absolutely reach out to myself. My contact information is jehan.karim@dejero.com. You should be able to find the spelling on the invite or the marketing that we've done, but it's essentially JEHAN.KARIM as in Mary @dejero.com. That's my email address, or you could reach me at my phone number is 1-519-572-2263. Again, that's 1-519-572-2263. If you don't have that information, we'll definitely make sure that our team reaches out to all the registrants, and that information is shared so that anyone who needs to reach out to us can get in touch with us.
Jehan, I want to thank you and Dejero on behalf of the IAFC Tech Council for really being innovative in your approaches to ensure connectivity and public safety. This is incredibly important for us, for the safety of our citizens and our firefighters. Interoperability between agencies. This presentation has been absolutely fantastic today. Thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate the opportunity. And again, thank you, Chief, and everybody else. Appreciate you all taking the time. And I look forward to hearing more from you and working with you all in the field. Thank you so much, and be safe.